Thanks for checking out another new podcast from the Association for Materials Protection and Performance. Of course, we're best known by the shorthand acronym of AMP. As always, I'm your host, Ben DuBose, and I'm the news editor with the AMP publications team. For today's show, I'm joined by Jennifer Rogers, Senior Director of Education at AMP, and we're going to be discussing AMP's newest educational program, Cathodic Protection Field Techniques. Announced earlier this month, this two-day immersive course is designed to introduce personnel to essential corrosion testing methods as well as real-world field techniques. Whether someone is new to the corrosion industry or just looking to enhance their practical skills, the idea of the course is that it offers a comprehensive foundation with which someone can begin or advance their career in cathodic protection, also known as CP for short. As part of the program, participants can engage in classroom instruction and hands-on training in a controlled field setting. Topics include half-cell calibration checks, structure to electrolyte measurements, rectifier measurements, electrical isolation testing, and more. The idea is that students can gain confidence in their corrosion data collection and testing techniques through a balanced mix of both theory and practice. The course is tailored for professionals such as new field technicians, CP managers, sales personnel that distribute CP equipment and services, skills assessors and auditors, field equipment repair technicians, and engineers supporting corrosion operations. So, Jennifer, you had a large amount to do with the rollout of this program. Before we get into more specifics, just introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about your role within AMP.
Sure, absolutely. So, Jennifer Rogers, Senior Director of Education here at AMP, and my role is really focused around looking toward the ways in which we can prepare our colleagues, not only for the jobs that they have today, but for the jobs in the future. And so my role in remit just looks at, not only the legacy programs that we have to provide to that audience, but also to the programs that we might introduce in the future to continue to progress the field forward.
So the new CP Field Techniques course, that's the newest thing you've rolled out, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so beyond the PR statements that I read in our introductory comments, what was the background of that? What is sort of the market niche that it seeks to address? Just give us, a high-level overview of how it all came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really interesting project and one that we're really proud of in the sense that we're really striving toward providing additional solutions for our colleagues in the field, really looking at real world scenarios and putting them in the position where they can not only learn some of the theory and elements around cathodic protection, but also put that in the context of what they actually will experience in the job. And I think one of the things that is so exciting about this particular program is that it enables us to potentially make that information and that know-how more accessible to colleagues. Our cathodic protection programs that exist today are one of the hallmarks of AMP, and all of our recipients of those certifications are quite proud to hold those credentials. We also recognize that those credentials take a significant amount of time to achieve. So even for our introductory CP programs that have existed in the past, they do require some degree of knowledge coming into the space, as well as a commitment of 5 days off the job to come in and participate in those programs. Those will still remain. And we're very proud of all of those offerings and all of our certificate holders that hold CP credentials. That said, we're also conscious of the fact that we're in a time in which cathodic protection is increasingly of interest to colleagues across the globe for a variety of reasons. Some of those having to do with sustainability and the aging nature of our infrastructure, the ways in which we're trying to support and sustain that infrastructure without replacing it. Also different aspects around energy and renewable energy types of assets that also will require cathodic protection as they're installed in the field. And even aspects around asset integrity and digital monitoring of assets also involve corrosion and CP related techniques. And so it was really important for us as we were looking at this to think about all of the different entry points whereby colleagues in all different walks of life and types of jobs and industries could engage and really get the critical information that they need when they're out in the field, dealing with infrastructure, to be able to assess a situation and mitigate it in the appropriate way, given the nature of their role. So this field techniques course is exciting to us in the sense that it's a 2-day course. It doesn't require 5 days, and it's really focused specifically, once again, on those basic touch points where someone might come across an issue dealing with infrastructure, so that they can kind of understand, what to be looking for, where there might be issues, and where they might need to call in another level of support to help with whatever it is they're experiencing. So we're excited about the nature of this, the fact that it is shorter in length. That should allow more colleagues to be able to take off some time to participate and really get engaged in those real world scenarios immediately that they can apply on the job. But also we're excited about the fact that, for those that are involved in predictive analytics, or aspects of the field that involve cathodic protection, but are maybe non-traditional approaches into the CP space. This is also a great introduction for them to start to learn more about the ways in which they might incorporate CP types of theory and practice into applications and technology that are being developed.
I think a lot of people are familiar with AMP's CIP program. That's, of course, Coding Inspector program. What's unique about the CP market and the education needs there that might be a little bit different than what people exposed to the CIP market think of?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it gets back to some of the things that I just mentioned, right? When we look at CP, we're talking about infrastructure, and there's so many parts of that ecosystem, so to speak, whether it's related to materials design, or it's all the way through, selection of specific materials in the place of an infrastructure type of project, or even monitoring the infrastructure that exists. It's such a wide range of different colleagues who could potentially benefit from cathodic protection types of knowledge and experience. I mean, bottom line, I think what we're trying to deal with here is the idea that infrastructure is everywhere. It doesn't matter necessarily what my specific job title is, or what specific industry I'm in. I probably in some way deal with physical infrastructure. And so we're really excited about the fact that CP in particular is critical for anyone who is engaged in any type of critical infrastructure as a part of their day-to-day. And this program essentially gives the opportunity for individuals who may have no experience with cathodic protection in the past to understand that relationship, and once again, help them to come up with plans that help them to protect and sustain the infrastructure that exists today.
You mentioned turning it into a 2-day course. Is that a good example of the type of, I guess, historical limitation that this program seeks to overcome? Just thinking in terms of what the limitations of the old model is and how this potentially gives you an opportunity to do some new things that reaches a new audience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right on with that, Ben. I think part of what we're trying to accomplish is that accessibility that I was talking about at the beginning of our chat, acknowledging that people from different industries and different job titles have different ways of working, different flows of work. We're trying to accommodate more and more approaches that allow people to get exactly what they need in a real world scenario that's relevant to what they're doing, and then go back, experience that on the job, and then potentially even come back again to layer on an additional level of knowledge. So this particular program, I think, is really important to us in the sense that it is that blend of some theory and awareness, but immediately goes into the practical on the job elements, so that you can come out of 2 days of an experience here and get back on the job, keep doing whatever you're doing, maintaining infrastructure, inspection, whatever aspect you're involved in. It gives you the opportunity to do that in a flexible way that hopefully is easier for you to make time away from work to come in and participate in that experience. We've also really, really focused on the experiential elements. AMP has a long-standing tradition of really having amazing hands-on experiences in our courses. So we really wanted to make something that was accessible and bite-sized in a smaller format for people, but still incorporate all of that great hands-on equipment-based, instrument-based types of experiences, once again, that emulate exactly what individuals are going to see when they're on their jobs in their day-to-day worlds.
One of the things that I know we prioritize at AMP is meeting members where they are, because we can have all what we think are the right ideas and the concepts, but it has to be actually implemented in a way that works for our members out in the field or whatever it is that their needs are. So, what was the development process like to take this from, the conceptual stage? I'm sure a while back you sort of had an idea of where you wanted to end up, but then collaborating with members, getting feedback, and actually getting it to the stage it is today, which is the actual rollout. What was the development process like? How did it start? How long did it take? Just what was the process like taking it from an idea to this actual course that's being rolled out right now?
Absolutely. And I have to give credit to lots of people who were part of this process. In addition to our education staff who of course supported, a lot of this effort was really driven by our member base, right? And their acknowledgement, rightfully so, that some of the formats that we have in place aren't necessarily accessible to
Hmm.
everyone based upon, who they are and what it is they need to accomplish. And so a lot of this particular project was born out of many different parts of our ecosystem coming together, talking about the problem, working over the course of a year or so to really figure out not only what would make sense from an experiential standpoint, but also to test all of it and make sure that everything would be a really exciting, coherent, engaging experience for anybody that's coming in to this particular course, regardless of their background, regardless of any degree that they have, any job title they have, even regardless of any comfort that they may have with some of the mathematical concepts and things like that we experience in some of the higher level CP programs. I have to give so much credit to everyone in the member ecosystem who participated in this. Once again, whether that's equipment providers, whether that's instrument providers, practitioners in the field who are working on a day-to-day basis around infrastructure and related to CP. We had so many members that were part of this, including just great support from a lot of our member leadership at AMP. Jeff Didas, as well as Kimberly Joy Harris, who obviously is the chair of the AMP Board of Directors at the moment, were intimately involved in this project as well, and were passionate about the ways in which we could create something that was bite-sized, that was experiential, and that gave people exactly what they needed to make an impact in their job coming straight out of the course. And so lots of collaboration over quite a bit of time to make sure that this experience was timely, relevant, significant, and engaging for our colleagues that are coming in, wanting to know more about CP and the ways in which it can help them on their job.
We've talked a good bit about logistics in this interview in terms of, making it more accessible, more bite-sized, not taking up as much time. But I know that while that's part of the equation, another part of it is making sure that the course represents the newest technologies and trends and what's going on in the market in the 2020s, because there's all sorts of new technologies when it comes to monitoring. Obviously, on the digital side, every year there are new advances. So, how does this program incorporate the 2024, the 2025 market in CP, as well as where the market is heading, or we think it's heading over the next few years?
Yeah, so this is a great one. When we've looked at the ways in which this course has been built or designed, it's really been built to grow with us as an
Mm.
organization. We talked a little bit about the size and the flexible format. That's just one step forward with
Right.
regards to our approach as we look into the future, whereby we can continue to incorporate things into the courses and keep them refreshed and up to date. In this course in particular, as I said, lots of amazing member support giving perspective around what's actually happening on the job and what people will actually see when they go out there, talking about what instruments people are using and not using, what you might see or have available to you as you're out there in the field working. So all of those aspects have been incorporated. Additionally, we can't emphasize enough the scenarios that have been built into the course very intentionally, so that we are simulating what the world would look like today, as colleagues are engaging with infrastructure projects associated with CP, but also so that we can continue to add new scenarios into that, as we move forward, whereby, to your point, infrastructure and the ways in which we engage around CP looks very different today than it did in the past. We've refreshed that and brought some of those new approaches and perspectives into the course. We'll continue to be able to keep it refreshed going forward with those scenarios, as the space continues to evolve and as we continue to get great feedback from our members around what they're seeing and experiencing, and even from some of our colleagues who are working on some of the innovation in this space, so that we can kind of proactively keep our colleagues aware of what's happening in the CP space and how they might need to be engaged or involved in that effort.
So in terms of feedback, I know some of it may not happen until mid to late November because the first course is November 13th and 14th, correct?
Correct.
But the announcement went out in early October, so people are certainly talking about this. I'm sure you've had conversations behind the scenes as well with certainly people on staff, but also members. What have you generally heard in these first few weeks since the announcement was made that this is, coming in the very short term?
Well, the first thing I'll say, Ben, is that our members weren't wrong when they came to us and they were excited about potentially offering something like this. The feedback has been fantastic. Our first offering, as you mentioned, November 13th through 14th, starting off with an offering here in Houston. That course is nearly full. We're almost in wait list already for the first course. And we're ready and waiting to continue to put out more offerings as the interest continues to swell and grow. We've heard lots of great anecdotal feedback, even from colleagues that are not in Houston. We had a staff member who was out and about in her local community in Pittsburgh and ran into someone who was just so excited to talk to her about the fact that they heard about this course and they were ready to register and come be a part of it. I think that's what we're really encouraged about, is the excitement that we're seeing from the community around this effort and the support that everyone's giving, once again, to help create that stepping stone for our colleagues who may not be ready for CP1 yet, or it may not be relevant to exactly what they're doing, but they do need to know about cathodic protection and corrosion. And this is an opportunity for them to come in and get some practical skills right away. So the response has been amazing. We've been very pleased to see that our colleagues are really excited about the opportunity that this provides. We're getting lots of questions about what's next as well. So that, that's a good indicator to us that we're moving in a direction that people are really excited about, and are looking forward to seeing the ways in which we continue to build on that legacy that AMP has of that great hands-on experience in those more portable or accessible formats that are a little bit more timely for individuals to apply on the job.
So a day in the life, or I guess 2 days in the life in this case, the initial example of this is coming very, very soon, November 13th and 14th. We might not have time to do, every bullet point on the itinerary, but just generally speaking, how are those 2 days going to look? What are the features like? What are the scheduling? If someone listening is going or thinking of going, because it's not totally booked up yet, or if they're just looking at going to, a future version in Houston or somewhere else, what do those 2 days generally look like if someone takes this course?
Yeah, so this is one of those that you don't want to miss either day. I will say that for sure, because once again, everything is embedded with a bit of just general theory and awareness, because once again, this is an introductory experience. You do not have to have any prior experience with corrosion or even cathodic protection to come into this experience. But from the very beginning of the first day, there's an opportunity to engage in some awareness and just understanding of general concepts, understanding instrumentation, what it does, what we're measuring, and then immediately taking that into relevant experiences. So this course kind of builds on itself and kind of goes back and forth a bit in terms of the theoretical and awareness-based elements and the experience. So you don't want to miss any of it. The one thing I would say around this, though, that I think is really exciting, and we mentioned this, I think, in the announcements that we sent out, this does involve some field-based experience, right?
Sure.
This course gets you out in a CP field, touching things, measuring things, understanding different types of scenarios that you will see, and feeling really confident about how you would respond in those scenarios. So we tell people, rain or shine, we're out there in the field, in the CP field, right? In the course, just like you would be on the job. So be prepared to come in, have a great interactive experience, and really get your hands on lots and lots of equipment and materials in specific situations that our colleagues will see on the job.
So you mentioned some members wanting to hear what's next, speaking not just to this course, but AMP's education offerings in general. Obviously, we're trying to do some new things. We're listening to member feedback. We're trying to meet them where they are, all that good stuff. I know you might not be ready to make any specific announcements today, but as we head towards 2025, what are some of the things that you're sort of working on? What are, the areas that you're targeting or working on that maybe members can expect more things to come in the future?
Absolutely. So really excited about the road ahead. We've talked a lot about this particular course and the idea that we are working on accessibility. You mentioned meeting members where they are, providing experiences that are as close to on the job as possible and that require the least amount of time off the job to participate in. So what you'll continue to see from us as we move forward is a great emphasis on that accessibility piece, on affordability, where we need to get better in that area as well. We do realize even with some of the original CP programs, they may have been a little bit expensive for our colleagues who are just trying to get into the CP field. So we've addressed that with this course. But as we move forward, once again, looking at ways in which we can provide very immersive, engaging experiences that are related to the job experience itself, really trying to reach people. We talk about meeting members where they're at, reach them on the job where they're at as much as possible, and really be conscious about the experiences that we can provide to colleagues potentially even on the job in the scenarios they see today, in simulated or immersive based environments that help them to once again connect to those experiences and understand in a safe, secure, controlled way how they might respond to a particular scenario before they actually experience it in the field. But also, once again, finding the right time and space for people to come together and collaborate, share different concepts and ideas, and continue to build this industry together through some of the collaborative experiences that we're looking to create from an education perspective going forward.
Yeah. Great insight there from Jennifer Rogers, Senior Director of Education at AMP. Jennifer, before we let you go, if someone listening wants to potentially get involved in that process, offer feedback, or just learn more about the new CP course or anything else going on within education, what are the best ways that they can either, learn more about what you're doing or potentially get in touch or get involved if they want to potentially collaborate in that process?
Absolutely. I love this question, Ben. As we move into the future, we've got lots of great things to accomplish, and we need lots of fresh perspectives and ideas along the way. Anyone who is interested in engaging in any of these ways, has a great idea, or just says, hey, I want to be a part of this process, please reach out to us and let us know that. We're looking for colleagues to be a part, just like some of the members were for the CP Field Techniques, to be a part of some of the new programs that we're putting forward in the future. There are different ways to engage around that. If you're a member, you can engage through any one of your channels. You can talk to chapter leaders if you're engaged in a chapter, and they can pass some information along to us. You can reach out to me directly if you'd like. I'd love to hear from you and connect you with people. My email is jennifer.rogers@amp.org. So happy to get that message from you. But also, reach out to anyone that you already engage with from an AMP staff perspective. Anyone would be happy to hear about the ways in which people would like to be engaged, and connect them to the right people to move the process forward.
Sure. And then as far as just scheduling and basic information, it's amp.org/education would be the simplest way to get that, I assume.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. With that, we will bring this to a close. For Jennifer and the education team, I'm Ben DuBose with AMP Publications. And if you want more from us within the publications team or just the association at large, just visit our certainly association website. Again, amp.org, ampp.org. But also those publication websites include materialsperformance.com and coatingspromag.com. We've got lots of good content there, case studies related to cathodic protection, as well as, of course, press releases and news related to the latest offerings within AMP, such as this new AMP CP program, where you can find more information. Again, amp.org for the association, or coatingspromag.com, materialsperformance.com for the publication websites. All right, that'll do it for today. As always, thanks for listening, and please come back soon for another new AMP podcast.